Welcome to Legal Bytes Over Coffee, an ENS podcast where legal insight meets coffee conversation. I'm Priyanka Roth from the ENS TMT team, and every 2 weeks I'm joined by a guest from across our African offices or an industry partner or a client to discuss what's happening at the intersection of tech, regulation, and business. Together we unpack the stories making headlines, the challenges emerging in practice, and the contractual and governance questions organizations are navigating in an increasingly digital world. Pour yourself a cup and let's get into this week's Legal Bites. On this week's episode, I'm joined by Esther de Jager, legal counsel at Nando's, a brand that actually needs very little introduction, no matter where you are in the world. Esther provides legal support for a business that operates across multiple jurisdictions. It sits at the intersection of brand and customer experience and a lot of commercial strategy and navigation. And her role goes far beyond traditional legal support, I think. She works very closely with her business to navigate risk and enable innovation and support one of the most distinctive and recognizable brands in the global markets. I'm very excited to have you with us here today, Esther. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Priyanka, and it's lovely to be here with you, and thank you for the lovely introduction.
It's only a pleasure. So, Esther, before we get into today's discussion, we always start with coffee. I cannot expect you to know how I take mine, so I'll tell you how I take mine.
No, unfortunately, I don't. I don't expect you to know how I take my coffee.
No, so tell me, how do you take your coffee?
I love a good espresso. So in the mornings, I will have a good espresso. I do not make it from a pod. I ground my own beans, and I do it in a cafetiere on the gas stove. Very traditional about that. And I added a very small bit of cold milk to it, though.
Oh, wow. So you like it bitter and strong.
I do. Yes.
I love that you mentioned you actually grind it, because my husband and I are now looking, we're out looking for a new coffee machine, and we used to only have just a drip coffee machine, you buy the grounds already and it filters it. But now we want the whole thing. We want like bean to cup kind of solution. I don't know if I have the patience for the gas stove. Does that take long?
I know people are very surprised when I tell them I don't have like a coffee machine.
Yeah. But I mean, the fact that you're making it on the stove, it's a whole thing. You
It's
obviously
an experience.
It's an experience. Like, I think it's part of your morning ritual, right? Like, you sit down.
It is complete morning ritual.
And it's completely your time, and it gives you time to center yourself before your busy day. Yeah, so
we're starts my day.
I am waiting for us to get a proper machine now. We're using now, what do you call that thing? Like now the name escapes me, but like a normal glass flask that a coffee press.
It's a French press.
French press, exactly. And I hate having coffee that way. I can never get the balance right, so I'm waiting for it to happen. But yeah, I take mine like an Americano with normal milk, and I actually haven't finished my cup for the day, so I keep reheating it. And when I had my baby, one of my cousins got me this really cool coffee warmer thing, it's like a coaster, but it's connected to power.
Oh, yes.
So whenever you put down your mug on it, it keeps it warm, which is actually quite nice, because microwaved coffee, like reheating it that way, doesn't taste nice at all. So like putting it on that is actually really cool. So I find I'm actually making my coffee last longer.
I don't think there's a lot of people that can say they drink their coffee that slow.
No, not indeed. I drink it like a good glass of wine these days since having a baby. Okay, so let's get into our segments, Esther. Thanks for the opener. But the first segment I start off with is called Tech Trends, and I like to look at, what's happening in the news, what's happening in the world, relevant to, my area, or I think about my guests and what's relevant to theirs. And what I thought I would start with is something I came across. it's this website and I've never come across it before you. I must be honest. It's called restauranttechnologynews.com. So it's extremely specific to to
No,
our,
absolutely. Yeah. No,
to our topic today.
I was quite interested when you sent me the link to this article, and I'm gonna check with our IT guys if they actually have sight of this.
Yeah, because it is interesting. I think, like, I mean, the thing that I found is a very, interesting topic, but there were so many articles, and I'm sure a lot of it would be relevant to your guys' space as well. But
I'm
the
sure.
the, the one article I did come across is this. It's called the title is 69% of restaurants are adopting AI, while 81% increase digital marketing investment. And the whole idea, I think, behind the survey done by these researchers, it was a survey done in America, though not here or anywhere
Mhm.
else. But they said that they're cutting. The survey found that consumers are actually cutting back on in-restaurant dining because they want to prioritize affordability and convenience. They're actually wanting to just order online and order meals to go. And the survey found that the weekly restaurant spending had fallen by approximately $90 in Feb of this year, and then or last year I think, or something like that. But it just kept going more and more. So I just thought it's a good way for us to just check in on what you're seeing in your space. I know you're not in marketing as such, but I'm sure as has the brand considered a pivot from in store, in restaurant dining to more app consumed meals?
This is a very, very interesting question in the Nando's sense. So I think you're going to be a little bit surprised by some of my answers.
Okay.
Um, we definitely see, and this is across the globe, that people are moving away from in restaurant to um, ordering on an app and delivery. I think that is the world has just moved largely in that way. And the entire QSR quick service restaurant industry, um, it is just so convenient. If you have a good app, just order your food on the app. You
Mm.
don't even have to get in your car. You can stay in your pajamas,
Mhm.
and it is affordable to do it that way. And in Nando's, we definitely do that, and we do it very successfully. Um, we do, however, believe that we build beautiful restaurants and we want to draw people in. And I don't know if you've recently seen almost like a relaunch of the brand. It was in December this year, with a tagline, "Oh, what a place." And we are really trying to get more feet into the restaurants because we're proud of the restaurants that we build. And we want people to think of us as the most loved restaurant brand in the world. And if you really love the restaurant, you will come and sit and eat in our beautiful restaurants.
Mm. And it's such a fun brand as well. And I think there is this balance. I'm seeing a lot of it's not just restaurants, it's retail generally as well, where they're trying to think, okay, we recognize that people do want to consume online and they're doing it
Mm.
quickly, but we want to build an in-store experience. Like
Yes.
Woolworths, for example, they are like, the app is not our first thing. We want to make sure that when you
Mhm.
come to our shop, you walk through the sections and you experience our products. You go to the florist there and you build your bouquet and you grab a coffee and you do all these things. And I think it's a really interesting response to digital disruption. And at the same time, you see other stores as well where, like, I went to Yuppiechef Chef with the coffee machine, the research that we're doing. And we went into the store and it was just because we were out and about already. And we were like, let's just go to Yuppiechef Chef, see what they have. And they actually said, look, we don't have all of these machines that you want in our store. You'd rather go online. And that was actually a bit disappointing because I was like, oh, I
Mm.
really wanted to see the machine and experience it, in person and look at how it
Yes.
looks and visualize it. And I think the same can be said for your space as well. Like you want to create like that cozy, family brand that Nando's has become associated with, where it's not something impersonal where you're at home and just getting it delivered to you. Like you're actually there and you're part of the grill experience.
Absolutely. And when you say now digital disruption and that we focusing on eating in, um, that by no means mean that we don't embrace technology.
Mm,
And we do that 100%. And you can see that across our business. If I, as legal counsel, I'm not as specialized as you guys. I have to be quite a generalist, and so I see a wide variety of disciplines come across my desk, and the amount of agreements that I have to review or draft for digital tools at
yeah.
the moment, it's absolutely staggering.
No, it's really everywhere, and we've seen it slowly ramp up. It was very big in the beginning, for your kind of main systems that companies, I mean, even the old companies, the traditional companies, like in the banking sector or financial services and so on, like they would just get these really big technologies and like, hey, this is a really interesting transaction. And then now we're seeing like almost every part of a business, almost every element is just going through some kind of tech evolution.
Absolutely.
And it's just making it faster, I think. And yes, like you guys would still have the in-restaurant experience, but it's possible like while you're there, you're still able, people are still interacting with tech, at your in your restaurants.
Absolutely. And we, again, I can say about the online platforms that we use for ordering, um, with the war in the Middle East, it really had, we have a whole bunch of restaurants in the Middle East haven't been affected by the war. And in, di in restaurant dining, definitely, um, it had a serious effect on in restaurant dining.
Um,
We Our sales were not affected as much because people still had the ability to order online.
yeah.
So we always have to embrace that technology.
Yeah, you can't
And
just be in one box. You have to straddle
no,
at least. And I think you have that ability to do both. And I was talking to Vilmarie as well, from my team. Obviously, you have a very good relationship with her, but she was telling me how cool the corporate office looks like at
oh
Nando's. Like
yes,
you do also, it's not just for your customers, but you want your employees to also have a great in-office experience as well.
no,
So I think as a
absolutely.
brand, as a brand, you really are prioritizing that experience.
So unfortunately, you haven't been to our campus.
No.
It's called Central Kitchen. It is a large campus with different buildings on it, and we of course have a Nando's restaurant on the premises as well. But for instance, if you look at our restaurants and the importance of what art plays in our restaurants, our campus is filled with beautiful art. And
Mm.
every 3 to 6 months, we have a team that comes here through here and they rotate the art and bring new art to our offices. So we really try to live what we live in our restaurants, also on our campus. And I guess that's how you get people to love the brand even more and want to come and work with the brand.
Yeah, no, I really do think it's really interesting, and especially now, I think where you're going to be, and I don't know how, you have, if you're in those conversations internally, but like just there must be so much temptation to just deprioritize that in restaurant or in office experience and kind of go where the tide is taking everyone else as well. So to be a business, I think in today's kind of rapid movement towards like just tech everywhere, I think
Yes.
in itself is a challenge, and you have to exercise almost like commercial restraints as well as a business.
Yes. Yeah. So the choices that we've made that seems a little bit against the stream are deliberate choices. And we also know that they are choices that don't necessarily come cheap. Um, but our values are so important to us that we are prepared to protect the brand and what we stand for.
That's amazing. Thank you, Esther. Our next segment is called In Practice. It's a bit more meatier, but although I feel like we've already had a very a very deep discussion as it is. But this next segment is called In Practice, where we discuss something that we're dealing with that could be relevant to the people who tune in and listen to the episode. But from each of our sides, we would bring in something that's just real world experience, something that we are navigating. You've already spoken quite a bit about the tech challenge, but you can speak about really anything that you want. And what does a day in the life of Esther Diache look like? I know you're not just focused on tech, but is there anything that Nando's is doing at the moment that we can talk about that is public, that is exciting, or yeah, just what can you share?
Okay, well, the one thing I can tell you, what a day in the life of Esther Diache look like is your guess is as good as mine.
Depends on the
Um,
day.
it depends on the day. And that is definitely, I think, it's a characteristic of being an in-house counsel.
Mm,
And especially if you're in a type of entrepreneurial business that that we are in. Well, our business, it's become a large corporate that's globally represented, but it still has that entrepreneurial heart to it. So things move quickly, things change quickly. So there's really no predicting what my day is going to look like. But that is specifically what I enjoy about being a general counsel. Um, Being a general counsel, if you tell everybody that you know every bit of law that I need to deal with in my entire portfolio, I would be lying.
yeah.
But the challenge is to um, learn enough about things that you can spot the red flags. So, for instance, I'm not a qualified IP practitioner, but I need to know enough about IP where I can see, okay, this is important. We need to deal with this. This is
Yeah.
maybe dangerous. And then build the relationships with external counsel where you need them. There are areas of law that I feel 100% comfortable just doing my own drafting and giving you the advice totally without the intervention of external counsel, but external counsel remains important when you a general practitioner like I am. And then I think another thing that makes my day change uh, without me having any influence over it is the current geopolitical disruption we have in the world.
Mm,
Um, you know, there are so many things that are driven by politics nowadays. Um, For instance, the war in Iran, it has a
mm,
massive influence on our business, even though we don't even have a business in Iran. And those are the things that we need to deal with very quickly and very urgently. One of my best examples about geopolitical disruption and the role on in-house counsel that I possibly have is a lot of the countries are starting to put in legislation towards localization. So we've got a very successful business in Botswana. We have a fantastic franchisee there who's run that business for many years. And Botswana is promulgating a lot of localization legislation. And one of the things that they are stopping us from exporting to Botswana is our lettuce and our bread rolls.
oh,
And Botswana is unfortunately a country that is made up of sand. And to grow a head of lettuce there is almost impossible. And if you manage to to grow a head of lettuce there, it's very poor quality lettuce. And similar with our bread rolls, we are very precious about our Nando's bread rolls, as most people
yeah.
know, the famous Nando's roll.
Yeah.
And we just can't find a bakery that can bake to our spec. And
Oh,
here, as legal counsel, we had to engage with the regulatories to get an
mm,
exemption to import our own lettuce and bread rolls. And if you told me 15 years ago that as a legal counsel, I'm going to have to deal with regulators about importing lettuce, I would have laughed.
That is so interesting. I mean, have you heard, is there an outcome on that exemption application? Was it successful? Was it still?
Yes, we had a
Oh,
successful
good.
exemption. The exemption
Okay.
was granted.
The people of Botswana can still enjoy a good burger. That's really fascinating, and I think also speaks to, I mean, you already mentioned that you have to, you're a lawyer of all trades, I guess. Like your day could be a mixture of anything, and you just have to have a sense of, is this something that I can do? Is this something that I need to pull external counsel in? But it's also the fact that you operate globally and in jurisdictions where you're also not an
Mhm.
expert in those jurisdictions, and that's a separate minefield all on its own. So that's really
Absolutely.
fascinating, and I'm feeling really comfortable where I'm sitting, and in my very specific practice area as outside counsel often in these conversations. So that's really interesting as well.
So yeah, the
Yeah.
multi-jurisdictional aspect is I enjoy that. It's definitely challenging, but it is so interesting to move through all these jurisdictions. And there are certain jurisdictions that are easier to deal with than others, and because
Mm.
they're simply more similar to what we used to as a trained South African lawyer. And then there are legal systems that are just so foreign that sometimes you literally can't even wrap your head around it. Um, and I
Yeah.
would, and people would normally think that the Middle East would be so completely difficult to work in the legal system. But it is actually not. I think there's a lot of, I find their commercial law is pretty much similar to what we have in South Africa and, for instance, in the UK, um, where in countries like Canada and Australia, again, they are just so highly regulated. I mean, absolutely everything is regulated.
Mm.
And sometimes I just look at it and I'm like, how is this even possible? um, so, but I guess that's also
How
part
do
of being
businesses
South
do
African
business?
because we're so used to everything.
Yeah. It's a
um,
cool spot to be in that you're in.
I'm enjoying it. I really am.
How long have you been in your role at
Oh my
Nando's?
goodness. Now I'm going to start giving away my age. I'm coming up on the 1st of June. I would have been here 13 years.
Wow. I think
Yes,
it's saying a lot to say, you love it and it's something you enjoy, and it's been that long. That is saying a lot.
I really do. I can honestly say that. Nando's is, in my opinion, a fantastic company to work with. Um, I love that we do a lot of purpose-driven work, um, which makes your job more meaningful.
Yeah, I agree. I think I was having this chat with someone else the other day. Like you spend all of your time or most of your time at work.
Yes.
You more than your home life actually. If you're not liking what you do, it's going to, I think, really reduce your quality of life a lot.
100%.
So I think it's good that you're enjoying what you do. From my side, so I usually share, matters I'm busy with, but what I thought I would share is something exciting that I'm working on now, which is I'm coordinating a bit of a road show.
Mhm.
In Cape Town, Stellenbosch, and Joburg. We're doing data breach simulations, which
Oh, wow.
is going to be so cool. So it's going to be a kind of like an event, a public event that people can come to, but it's the idea. What I'm really hoping is that so we usually just get like a head of legal coming to our webinars or our seminars, or
Mhm.
like head of, privacy if it's a privacy event. But what I'm really hoping to get is like teams from companies where you're actually getting an opportunity to kind of workshop your own data breach strategy in a simulated environment. So we're working with another company called CyberLogic, but they are going to be kind of running the simulation and like looking at different scenarios and like I have this whole vision of how it's going to look, and I'm really excited to see it play out. So we're
That sounds
busy just
amazing.
yeah, because I really do think like the thing with data breaches, it's never just head of legal
Yeah.
running it. It's a few people, from a company that kind of have to come together, all at very senior leadership level, and then work through the plan. Because I mean, you've seen like the data breach policies that we've prepared.
Mm.
Those all are really great on paper, but if no one actually is
Mm.
aware of it, if no one's implementing it, it actually doesn't mean anything. So the idea
This
is,
actually aligns nicely with something that I'm trying to do
yeah,
this year.
yeah,
Um, so I do all this wonderful legal work all across the globe, but I also act for the South African business.
yeah.
And I am trying to um, create awareness again around POPIA.
Mm,
Because when POPIA came into force, of course, there was a massive drive and we did everything that we had to do. And
exactly, yeah.
every single person in the country, in the country, was
Mm,
trained, and
yeah,
and there was a lot of activity and around it, and it was very very much front of mind. And I've realized as time has gone on, it fizzled out a little bit,
yeah.
and I think we need to ramp that up again, um, by creating awareness
Mm,
and also make sure that specifically your heads of marketing, your head of tech, um, even
exactly.
operations, that they are all have a decent basic understanding
Yeah.
of their obligations and what they should be doing. Because I can't be the sole enforcer of the POPIA
No,
Act.
no, it's just not
Yes,
practical, Esther. I mean, like it's exactly as you're saying. You need to rely on kind of everyone else who's much closer to
to
what
the
they do
actual
day to
business. Yep,
day to know
yeah,
what does processing mean for my business area? What does personal information mean for my business area? Because, I mean, you can give puppy training till the cows come home. People
yes.
don't really, I think, kind
They
of
don't feel it's
matching.
their responsibility.
No, and I
Hmm.
think the regulator is also shifting its approach to saying, well, we we are actually not looking to, yes, the information officer is accountable for Poppy and how the organization
Mm.
complies with it, but we're actually wanting to know, does your person in this office know what Poppy is? Do they know who your information officer is? What does how do the policies you have in place, which all look lovely, by the way, how do they translate for that person?
Yes,
And I think that's the disconnect that the regulator is actually trying to focus on. So what you wanting to do is perfect and 100% aligned with what's needed. It really can't be sitting with just the information officer or legal. It's an
100%.
it's an operational process, and much like a skill or a language, you kind of have to keep using it for it to really mean something,
Hmm.
to you. But good luck. That's going to be hard.
Yep,
Uh,
I'm going to try to empower the business.
That is it. It is empowerment. It is just yeah, it's a whole change management process that you really just have to like force people to be proactive or almost be aware that everything they do actually just touches on information, and you're in a very consumer facing space as well, so there's a lot of data, good data, that moves
Yes,
through the organization. So that's it's really cool, and you guys have a lot of you have all the things in place already, so it's just maintaining that ongoing awareness, which is the hard part for all organizations, honestly, especially your big ones. So yeah, good luck.
and you know what the sad thing is about this, Priyanka? I'm such a lawyer. I'm very excited about this project plan that I'm putting together.
All the color codes, the Excel little cells that have
I've
different
got,
different
yeah,
things.
workflows and graphs and everything.
That's good. You're speaking my language. I love it. I have workflows for my workflows, you know. Yeah, no,
And
but it
what
is
do you
a
use to
project.
create your workflows?
what do I use? Oh, I'm using Excel as well, but we have an in-house intelligence team, and I spoke to them because we also my team does a lot of contract management for one of our clients, where we kind of do all their contracts, like from the moment it's created, and we negotiate and we go through the whole process. And we pretty much have taken on this whole function for one of our clients, and I've been using an Excel document like as if I'm not a technology lawyer, but been using an Excel document to kind of track all the contracts, like what is where, what is the status of which, what's the expiry date. And I went to our team, our intelligence team, and I said, please tell me that there's some kind of solution that can just automate this whole process, because it doesn't seem efficient. And like, while the client is happy to pay for my time, it's not a good use of my time. Like they'd much rather benefit from me, applying my mind in other ways than have these like really complicated Excel workbooks that I'm proud of. They're very beautiful, but it's a lot of time to create those. So
Absolutely.
the team did walk me through some solutions that we have. So I was actually happy to learn about those. So I'm going to be going through my own change management soon, where I'm going to move over from Excel. But let me know if you're looking for a solution for your project. But I think for a poppy kind of change management or awareness, I think Excel will probably be okay. All right,
Um,
so our next segment before we close is, I can't believe how quickly we're going through it, but it's just a clause of choice where I ask my guests to bring something. It's a clause or a concept or anything that might be relevant to your space. It doesn't have to be tech specific, but something that you've been thinking about. What have you brought?
um, yeah, so I think for us, almost foremost in our minds, doesn't matter what type of a contract I do, brand protection
Mm,
um, is always very high on our radar. And when you start talking brand protection, you start talking IP.
yeah.
And invariably, nowadays, if you talk IP, 90% of the time you're talking tech of some sort. And we have a clause that we put in our agreements. It's called our new materials clause. I'm pretty sure you've seen it.
Mm.
Um, so basically, what that clause says is that if you create anything for and on behalf of Nando's that is bespoke to Nando's with any use of our IP or confidential information, the ownership in that will transfer to Nando's. And the immediate kickback we always get is if somebody, the pre-existing IP,
Yeah.
how do you deal with that? What happens with the pre-existing IP? Because a software developer is not going to give us ownership of their source code. So I would actually like to hear how you would answer this question.
This is a tricky one. I would want to actually think about how it's happening in a particular use scenario, because I think that's going to be where the details come up, because practically you can say we're going to own everything you create, but how do you separate, what that from
Mm,
the source code? How are you able to use it without actually seeing their source code? Because you can understand it's their secret source as well.
absolutely. Yeah.
So how do you actually segregate that? And sometimes it's a technical question for your vendors as well, to say, look, you can own it, but how will you use it if you can't actually get the underlying source code that is actually being used to sell our product to all our other customers as well, some of who might be your own competitors. So I think it might be a discussion that you have, with depending on the software, on the product and the vendor, and what can actually be technically achieved. Because we always think about, okay, you want to own it, but why? Like maybe you can just
Yeah.
achieve the same purpose without ownership, but maybe a very broad license, where you can, do whatever you want with it. You can modify, you can sub-license, you can transfer all of those things, but you can't actually own it. So
Mm,
sometimes we'll say, what, where. what's the kind of commercial objective for you in saying you want to own this IP? What do you want to do with it? Can we achieve it through a different way? Or as I say, like if you can approach it technically with your vendor, like how do we segregate it? How can you build us something separately, or how do we draw that line technically? Because you would know this already. It's great to have all these clauses in the contract, but if
Mhm.
practically you're not aligned on it, it's another story. I mean,
Yes.
we have the IP conversations as well. We have like these lovely clauses in the contract, where our client is a customer of services from a tech vendor, and it has the usual stuff. Whatever you create for us, we own. But then it comes to the question, okay, like what are you creating for us? Because sometimes
Mm.
it becomes so messy. The guys on the ground, they're saying, "Oh, we'd like for you to just do this one small thing here. Can you create this for us?" And then it turns out you actually are sitting with a bunch of a mixture of bespoke IP
Mm.
embedded in, the off-the-shelf software, and
Product,
like how do
yes.
you actually separate it? And that's a conversation that's much harder to have when you're sitting with that final product and you're trying to pull it apart. And I think aligning on it operationally at the time you're having the legal discussions is important to say we're asking for this right, but effectively, how do we actually achieve it when it comes to it? And that conversation I think should actually happen at the beginning so that you're able to give
Absolutely.
effect to those kinds of rights. I haven't answered your question, but I mean, I'm doing a
It's
lot of thinking
it's a
out loud.
complicated question,
It's
and
very complicated.
um, there's no straight answer. It will depend
Mm-mm.
on every single situation, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's a
Yeah.
good one, and good luck with the challenges it keeps bringing you.
Thank you very much. Because this is pretty much a daily one.
I see why you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And our last one is just a closing game with you, Esther, and just in Nando's fashion, I'm calling it cheeky or not. But it's an episode for just some rapid fire views from you on risks or trends or debates that are shaping tech and regulation. So I've called it cheeky or not, paying tribute to the all the this. I don't know how relevant the cheeky thing is today, but it really did its rounds a couple of years ago in the UK. But
Absolutely.
I'm going to give you a scenario. I'm going to give you just, I think, five. And then you can tell me, is this cheeky but something we can live with, or is it just a step too far? Okay.
Yeah.
So the first one is a loyalty app that tracks user behavior in detail, but the disclosures are buried in terms and conditions.
I think that could be a little cheeky because people are nowadays very protective of their personal information,
Mm,
and they understand they have rights and they
mm,
know they have rights. Um, so I think it is a little bit cheeky to just bury it somewhere in the absolute fine print. I would
yeah,
prefer if there's a short paragraph that is easy to see somewhere,
yeah,
just
I agree.
referring, not necessarily even setting out every single thing that you do, but then
Mm.
people make them aware and then they can go look at the terms and conditions.
I agree. Deal with your part
No,
of it. Like say,
because
here it
I
is.
get
Make it
so
easy for them.
irritated with the amount of phone calls and stuff that
Mm.
I'm getting that, I can't inflict that on our own consumers.
No, true. Okay, second scenario, sending marketing messages shortly after a customer interacts with your app or website.
I think that's okay because
Yeah,
then you're
I think
front
that's
of
okay.
mind.
Yeah, and I think it's using data
And
in
it's
a
and
transparent
you
way.
if you use it, yeah, if you use it in a legally correct
Mm.
manner, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, that's good. As a consumer myself, I haven't minded when a website says we noticed, you've signed up and
Mm.
here's stuff that I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, okay, cool, that's great.
yeah, that's fine.
The next one is testing new AI tools internally before fully assessing legal or compliance risks.
Absolutely, you
Mm.
must test it beforehand.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, yeah, and we at the moment as a legal team, we are trialing a variety of AI tools for us to use.
Mm, mm.
And I can tell you now, through the few trials that I've gone through, I understand how important it is to really trial every product properly
Yeah.
before you make a decision. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The next scenario is business teams signing up to new tools without involving legal.
That is beyond cheeky.
I,
And my pet hate.
I,
I think it's
I,
any legal counsel's pet hate.
yes, I put that in knowing obviously how you'd respond, but it's funny how this still happens, and I think it's because
Yeah,
a lot of teams, again, they're coming to legal with the problem rather than looking for how do we proactively like solve for risks rather than react to it, and
yes.
it's crazy that it's still happening today. But yeah, I put that in for you.
Here, I can give our learning and development team massive kudos.
Okay.
They came to me and they asked me, the question was actually relatively simple. Um, they asked me whether they can clone 3 of our trainers who trains Nandokas, because that's what we call anybody that's employed by Nando's. I'm also a Nandoka in restaurants. And the reason why they want to clone these people's voices is because AI tools don't really have African voices easily available. And also, these voices are familiar to the people in the restaurants. They know these voices. So they wanted to record some training materials and use clone these 3 people's voices. And obviously, immediately I said, well, first of all, we need to have permission, and then second of all, please tell me which tool you are going to use to clone the voices. And of course, the tool used all material to train their language, which would mean that all our training material would become public knowledge.
Mm.
And I then had the opportunity to stop them from doing it before they started using the tool. And they said, okay, no, absolutely, they understand. They won't use an AI tool to clone the voices. They are just going to go back to recording in studio. Then
And
they
look,
came
it's
back to
oh,
me.
sorry, I thought you were done. Is there more?
No, then they came back to me after a few weeks and said, listen, it is so expensive to record in studio. Is there
Yeah.
no way they can use an AI tool? So what I then did is I used AI to go and find the top 10 voice cloning tools
Nice.
recommended by AI. And I sat and I went through their terms and conditions one by one until I found one that doesn't use the information and the information still stays secure. And I could give them an AI tool to clone voices.
That is an excellent example of how to involve legal. So yeah, kudos to your L&D team, and also really interesting use case as well, with a happy ending.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then the last scenario is a brand pushing the boundaries of humor, knowing it might attract some backlash, but also some attention.
Ooh, we do that all the time. So absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that is, I mean, that is part of the Nando's brand. That's what
I
we do.
know.
But we do try, obviously, not to blatantly offend people or breach complete the laws. We'll push the
Yeah.
boundaries, but we really try not to cross them. Um, so legal obviously has a look at all advertising material before it goes out. Sometimes we're slightly horrified and have to send it back.
This is too
um,
far.
yeah. Um, but yeah, no, that's also part of the fun of being part of Nando's is trying to push those boundaries, but still getting them right.
It does sound really fun, actually. And you also have to have a sense of humor yourself, I think.
Absolutely.
You can't be a
Yeah,
serious legal eagle. You have to act, have some humor as well, I think, in your job.
absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Esther, that's a wrap on today's episode of Legal Bites Over Coffee. Thank you so much for joining me with this conversation. I really enjoyed it. It went by so quickly.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it was quite fun.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure. And to the listeners, if you found this discussion useful, subscribe, join us again as we continue unpacking the legal bites behind Africa's digital economy. Until next time, keep the coffee warm and your governance questions hot. Thank you.